All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to talk about a truly incredible figure from the 20th century, Nelson Mandela. You see, to really get the story of modern South Africa, you have to look at the journey of this one man. His life is, well, it's almost like a roadmap for the entire country's change, from a place of deep division and pain to a brand new, hopeful democracy.
So where does this incredible story start? Well, it's not in a prison cell like you might think. It actually begins in the beautiful rolling hills of the Transkei region. He was born right into the Thembu royal family, and his name at birth was Rolihlahla Mandela.
And get this, his birth name, Rolihlahla, has a very interesting meaning. In his language, it basically translates to troublemaker. It's kind of like his whole life of shaking things up and challenging the way things were was predicted right from day one.
Growing up, he would sit and watch the tribal council meetings, and what he saw there really stuck with him. He watched the leaders really listen, to every single person before they decided anything. And that taught him something huge, that being a real leader wasn't about shouting the loudest. It was about bringing people together. That skill would be so important for him later on.
Okay, so as Mandela grew up and moved to the big city, Johannesburg, he ran headfirst into a really harsh new world. The government there was starting to put in place this incredibly cruel system of racial segregation.
And this system got a name. In 1948, the National Party took over and made it the law of the land. They called it apartheid. The word itself just means apartness, and that was exactly the point. The whole goal was to keep people separate based on their race in every single part of life. We're talking everything, from where you were allowed to live to even who you could marry.
This timeline here really shows how things changed, and fast. At first, Mandela and his group, the African National Congress, or ANC, were all about nonviolent protest. You can see the Defiance campaign back in 1952. But the government's response just got more and more violent. It all came to a head at the Sharpeville Massacre, a terrible day when police killed 69 unarmed protesters. After that, the government banned the ANC completely. All the peaceful roads were blocked, so Mandela felt they had no other choice. They had to fight back. That's when they formed an armed group called Umkhonto we Sizwe, which means Spear of the Nation.
Because he was organizing this resistance, Mandela quickly became one of the most wanted men in the country. And when he was finally captured, he and the other leaders were put on trial. And this wasn't just any trial, it was the famous Rivonia trial, and they were literally on trial for their lives. But here's the thing. Instead of just trying to defend himself, Mandela flipped the whole thing on its head. He used that courtroom as a stage to put the entire system of apartheid on trial. He gave this incredible, hours-long speech, and he ended it by saying he believed in a free and democratic society, and that it was an ideal he was willing to die for.
He wasn't given the death penalty. Instead, they sentenced him to life in prison. He would end up spending 27 years locked away. 27 years. Most of that time was on the notorious Robben Island.
And life there, it was brutal. The whole system was designed to crush a person's spirit. We're talking a tiny, tiny cell. Hard labor in a quarry that actually damaged his eyesight forever. He was almost completely cut off from his family, from the entire world. But something amazing happened. The prisoners, they just refused to be broken. They organized themselves, taught each other in secret classes, and they leaned on each other. They actually started calling the prison Robben Island University.
And here's the ultimate irony, right? The government thought that by locking him up, they could make everyone forget about him. Basically, bury him alive. But they did the exact opposite. By trying to silence him, they accidentally made him a legend. He became the most famous political prisoner on the planet, and his empty jail cell became this massive symbol of the fight against apartheid, kicking off a huge Free Mandela campaign all over the world.
So let's fast forward to the late 1980s. South Africa is on the edge of a cliff. The rest of the world has cut them off with sanctions. And inside the country, protests are making it impossible to govern. It became clear to everybody, both the government and the ANC, that this couldn't be won with violence. Neither side was going to win that way. The only way out was to talk.
And believe it or not, that road to democracy started with Mandela himself, from inside his prison cell. He began these secret talks with the government. That brave first step led the president at the time, F.W. de Klerk, to do something huge. He unbanned the ANC. And not long after that, Nelson Mandela walked out of prison a free man after 27 years. That incredible moment set the stage for 4 really tough years of negotiations. But they did it. And it all led to the country's very first democratic election, where for the first time ever, every single South African, no matter their race, got to vote.
And of course, in 1994,
Nelson Mandela was elected as the very first president of a democratic South Africa. Now, after everything he'd been through, his main focus wasn't getting revenge. Not at all. It was reconciliation. His whole mission was to heal the country's deep, deep wounds and bring everyone together in what he called the Rainbow Nation.
And one of the most powerful ways he did this was through sports. You have to remember, rugby was seen as the sport of the white population. So during the 1995 Rugby World Cup, Mandela did something incredible. He walked out onto the field wearing the jersey of the national team, the Springboks. It was this simple, brilliant gesture that sent a clear message to white South Africans. You are a part of this new country too. We're all in this together.
But like any great historical figure, Mandela's legacy is, well, it's complicated. On the one hand, what he accomplished was a true political miracle. He guided the country through a peaceful change to democracy and stopped what could have been a terrible civil war. But on the other hand, to get that peace, a big economic compromise had to be made. Basically, the huge amounts of wealth and land that had been controlled by a few during apartheid mostly stayed with those same few. And that's left a legacy of massive economic inequality that South Africa is still dealing with today.
And that really gets us to the core question about his legacy. In order to get a peaceful, stable new nation, was the price for that peace leaving those old economic injustices in place? It's a tough question, and it's one that not just South Africa, but the whole world is still thinking about.